Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, wherever you may be. And welcome to the Regional Roundtable of the Youth-led Solution, the Future of the Work Summit, organized by the World YMCA. I'm Sunita Suna, the Executive Secretary for Programs of the Asia Pacific Alliance of YMCA. Well, I'm really honored and delighted to moderate this very important regional roundtable discussion today on the topic, Preparing Young People for the Future of Work, Asia Pacific Perspective on Economic Development and Jobs. This particular roundtable discussion aims to begin the important discourse on the future of the work on economic development and jobs, and particularly for young people in the context of Asia Pacific, home to over 60% of world's youth. Well, it's also vital to initiate the discourse on the said topic in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Young people are among the most vulnerable populations and disproportionately affected by the pandemic due to the ongoing disruptions to labor markets. Today's initiative will further discuss and actualize our innovative, creative ideas in diverse ways to experience the green, care, and creative economy. The young people can be empowered and also be solutions to the problems we face in our world today. We are very happy and very thankful to the International Labour Organization, ILO, for their support and partnership in responding to the challenging and very pertinent subject what we will be discussing today. To facilitate today's discourse of the roundtable, we have excellent speakers from regional YMCAs as well as from the International Labour Organization. I'll introduce our speakers right before they speak, and you will know more about them as they speak to us. Well, we have 1 hour for the discussion. After the presentation from 3 speakers, we will hear from the youth panel briefly and open up for a Q&A session. I will introduce our youth panel a little later. We will try to bring them on the stage, on the screen. We are trying our best to find ways how we can bring them here. But to save time, I also request all our participants to write your questions during their presentation in the Q&A box, not the chat box, Q&A box. So it's easy for us to identify your questions and comments quickly. Well, for many of us, it's the first time we are using the Hopin online platform, so we are all learning together. And if there are any technical issues, please bear with us and do not leave the session, as our colleagues are really trying hard to resolve any kind of technical issues arises. So thank you so much for your understanding. Now let me introduce our first speaker, and she is Adeline Rosen. Adeline is the program officer of the Young Men's Christian Association of Albay, the Philippines. One of the programs she supervised is the livelihood of women's group in the partners community. She is also an active volunteer and leader in different organizations where she focuses on environmental projects, peace building and security, and livelihood programs for youth. Furthermore, her background in leadership and her eagerness to help her community has led her to be elected as the Young Village Councillor. Congratulations, Adeline. And Adeline is 23 years old. So we welcome you, Adeline, and now I hand over to you to share your presentation on YMCA Enterprise. Adeline.
For that one warm welcome, Sunita. I'll just share my screen. So hello everyone, I am Adeline Racine, the Program Officer of Albay YMCA. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to share with you a story on how we are able to organize and sustain a women organization in the relocation side. So Albay province is one of the scenic yet hazard-prone area in the Philippines. The province is lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire, where volcanoes are active. And we have here our majestic Mayon. It is the Mayon volcano, and it is perfectly shaped Mayon. And it is located along the typhoon belt, wherein we are often visited by more or less 20 typhoons per year, and this natural calamities destroys homes, livelihoods, farms, and even causes mortalities rather. In the last quarter of 2006, two typhoons devastated the province of Albay with a 250 kilometer per hour wind, dumping 15 inches of rainfall for almost 7 straight hours, triggered the massive mud flow from the slopes of the Mayon volcano, submerged villages, killing more than thousands of people and displaced 13,000 families. And this is where our story started. YMCA responded to the relief and rehabilitation of the displaced families, and during those years, food supply from different aid agencies only lasted for 6 months. And people need a source of living to stay afloat. And the problem before us is really huge to handle. So we conducted participatory appraisal to assess the resources and skills available for us to create a sustainable livelihood program for the relocatees and evacuees. So together with our partner agencies, we formally formed the economic group called Bukluran sa Kabuhayan. This is this means united livelihood for everyone, and this is our economic-based community association for the displaced people located in Anislagra settlement site, Derga Albay, Philippines, and whose members express strong interest to liberate themselves from poverty through hard work and mutual help, believing in further that being united is the first step to financial freedom. So how YMCA able to organize this? So consultation was done between different government units, partner agencies, and affected population to discuss how we can work together to create our livelihood projects and for our workers, or I mean, for the evacuees to earn extra income. So we conduct different livelihood skills training because we believe this is a step for them to engage them in working with different livelihood skills. The next thing we do is conduct of marketing and promotion. YMCA conducted several market and resource-based livelihood trainings. So we taught them how to be entrepreneurial and organize them into one group. Although they came from different communities and they are forced to live in the relocation site. And of course, uh, the group was only using the sidewalks and classroom inside the village before for their production, trainings, and meetings. And we are grateful that our livelihood is one of the chosen place to be donated by the International Labor Organization year 2007. And by April of 2007, it was open to our livelihood workers. And after that, we maximize the skills and potentials of our workers. So we conducted skills training and product development. We sit with them, and later on, we became family. Then, because of we value the quality services, skills development, product development, were with different livelihood skills, livelihood trainings, we reach out with different organizations and agencies, including the YMCA Wells Fargo, They sponsored our livelihood trainings, and through this, we are able to reach out. We're able to reach out other workers from the neighboring villages. And we are proud that from just a number of workers, we are now having hundreds of workers with different skills and livelihood. And these are just some of the livelihood products that we are producing with baskets, different kinds of baskets, maps, and plant baskets. We also have bags. And this is the plant basket. And we also conduct leadership and character building for our members. And these are our organization officers. These are the members. And during the first 4 months of COVID-19 in the community, we are topped by different organizations because we are known for our livelihood. So they top us to supply thousands of face masks because of the need and the limited supply in the region. We are able to gather our sewers to for the production inside the maximizing and the available facility that we have. So aside from it, we are able also to provide alternative livelihood for our workers and for all the workers and members of our organization. And this is one of the samples images that our members are being busy right now while waiting for the while waiting for our next production, and our center is closed due to the COVID pandemic. And now, who are Bukluran sa Kabuhayan now? We are partner producer and board member of the Community Craft Association of the Philippines, and products are being exported to Asia, Europe, and US. And we have more than hundreds of workers.
Adeline,
Their
sorry
own
for interrupt. Your PTT not moving.
what?
Your PowerPoint not moving.
Okay. Where did I stop?
First, at YMCA Enterprise.
Oh, the first page. I think I will share this. Can you able to see this?
Yes, now.
Okay. So should I? Okay, I'll just the photos. So these are our members and the production of face masks. And this is our alternative livelihood. Um, this is our alternative livelihood samples. And our Bukluran sa Kabuhayan is now working with are registered under the Department of Labor and Employment, and each member has their own alternative livelihood. And we are proud that this is the longest and existing livelihood group in the community. And still, our Bukluran sa Kabuhayan and the YMCA is striving to reach self-sustainability. We believe that if you give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day, if you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And this is the YMCA efforts in enterprises. Thank you. I am Edeline again. If you want to connect with me and know more about our organization, you can contact me through my WhatsApp and the organization email. Thank you so much for joining me in our story.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adin, for a very meaningful and impactful project for the community in the Philippines. We will come back to you with some more questions and clarifications later on. Well, before I invite our second speaker, can I also request those youth panel from India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh and Myanmar, if they are there, then could you please enter to the stage or the screen? Please try to do that, because after we finish listening from our speakers, we would like to hear from you as well. So Let me now introduce our second speaker. He is Michael Chong. Known as Mike, he is a YMCA staff from Malaysia, an enthusiastic trainer and coach in the digital marketing field, helping people simplify and gain clarity on zero-cost digital marketing and branding strategies. He advocates for young people taking up more leadership roles and has worked with numerous young people, served underprivileged refugees, and a voice in the Global Alternative Tourism Program under the Asia Pacific Alliance. He has recently become a member of the National Federation of Neuro-Linguistic Programming for the 21st Century USA. So we welcome you, Michael, and now I invite you to share your life journey as an entrepreneur. Michael.
Great. Thank you so much, Sonita, and hello everyone. How are you doing? If you're good, give me a good in the chat. Okay, great. Okay, let me just share, right? This is a journey from the working world to being your own boss, right? So who wants to be their own boss? Yeah, everyone is thinking, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? I want to be my own boss. So just let me share with you. Okay, all right, let's go. So just a short introduction. My name is Mike. I'm a Penang Knight from Malaysia. I'm a digital marketing trainer. I'm a copy content writer. I'm also a EU-Savan certified trainer, also an NLP coach and practitioner, also career coach. And recently, I'm a Facebook blueprint media buying professional. Wow, that's quite a lot of words to say. But basically, yeah, I'm all that, all right? But let me just share with you my YMCA to my entrepreneur journey, okay? So I started on my journey in 2012 from the real estate line, where I sold like houses, you know, real high value property, and also dealt with a lot of high flying clients. But then after that, I took a step back, and you know, I faced a crossroad, right? And then I decided to join the YMCA as a staff for a short while. Then I'll go back to property line. I told myself that, right? But as a staff, I began to see the work of the YMCA. It was very nice, very different crowd. You know, I started off working with the deaf, and then I served a lot of seniors, and then the underprivileged youth, and we have a lot of meetings, right? And from there, I also get to know other people from the other YMCAs as well, and my network just grew, and together with people of same passion. So here, I also learned to serve community. Right, as you can see, these are some of the photos, and yeah, and also became part of a community too. Yeah, so not just serving, but I also became part of a community as well, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful connecting with people who are like-minded and same wavelength such as mine. So from the YMCA, I learned different skills. I was a very introverted person, very shy. But then I had to go on the stage, you know, became an MC and do many different things, many different things which pushed my limits, yeah. So as a staff, I discovered that my workplace, the YMCA, was an awesome place to work, right? But work isn't work when there is passion. But there wasn't enough visibility in what we do, so we needed to brand ourselves and market ourselves more. So I had to DIY because no one else seemed to be able to tell me or guide me how to do social media, how to do planning, how can we be more visible to our community out there. So it was a super good learning experience for me. So I always wanted to start my own business because it was cool, okay? Everyone says it's cool. People who have their own business sounded cool, all right? Business people are rich, right? You know, yeah, rich, right? And because it was cool. Okay, and this was me, yeah, quite a while ago, right? Wanted to be very businessman and all that, yeah. So what I thought being my own boss meant, right? I thought I could wake up anytime I want. Who was there? I wake up anytime you want, all right? Time will be very flexible for me. I can sort of order people around, you know. So I don't have to do so much. You know, now I'm doing so many things. I can be, hey, Asher, can you please do this? You know, Felix, can you? All right, I'm just giving you guys as an example. Sorry. So people would think highly of me. You know, I'm a businessman. You know, people would think highly of me. And instead of serving others, which I usually do, I would experience service for a change, right? I would experience service for a change, and I have lots of money. We have more options. Who here wants more options, right? Thought being a businessman would be able to do that, right? Run my own business. So COVID came, and I decided to walk a different path. So I tried out the boss life as a trainer, right, in the field of training. Actually, yeah, because COVID hit, right, and all our business was affected as well. So I decided to walk a different path. And those who did not know this, now you know this, okay? I didn't announce it out yet. So, okay. So what being my own boss actually meant as a solopreneur? Okay, let's take a look. So basically, client's time equals my time, okay? I don't have much time on my own. My client's time is my time. And free time is a luxury, meaning no time. So I thought, being in business, being an entrepreneur means I have a lot of time. But I found out time is really a luxury. Watching Netflix is, I don't know, it's a blessing, okay? Hey, you have time to watch Netflix is good, all right? Money, you think money only works if you work, okay? If you don't work, you don't get no money. And others' thoughts on me, are they thinking highly of me? Well, having a business means nothing if you are not successful, okay? If you're not successful yet, it doesn't mean that, people think very highly of you or not. So it doesn't mean that. Instead of, people ordering me around more than I them, So people are like, hey, Mike, have you done this? Have you done that? Hey, your deadline is here. So it's worse than working last time, previously. All right. And I have to really stand out, yeah. There are many others like me too. So, I thought, I'm doing this, I'm good at this. Then, when I'm up there in the market, I realized that there are many others as well who are doing the same thing, exactly the same thing, right? Make mistakes. Okay, so if you're an entrepreneur, when you make mistakes, it's you, right? It's mine alone to bear. So no one else, okay? I answer to myself. So what is entrepreneurship all about? So this is the definition, right? It's the activity of setting up a business or businesses, taking up financial risk in the hopes of profit, okay? In the hopes of profit. Now, so what do I do now? So I found passion in helping small and medium businesses level up their marketing game and visibility in the market, because I know it's very, very hard to do business if you do not have visibility. And through the YMCA, right, I learned we do a lot of good work, but no one really knows. So I harness the skill from there, and now I teach small and medium businesses in Malaysia and hopefully around the world soon, right, on how to level up their marketing game, especially on social media. It's all very important. Yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. These are platforms that you need to know. So I've learned to help my community and empower others in a greater way now. Yeah, in a greater way now, which I found so much passion for. So, how about you? So you must be wondering now, right? So how about yourself? If you're ever thinking of, stepping into the world of entrepreneurship, how about you? Yeah, so what will you do next? Okay, so whether entrepreneurship or joining the workforce, both are great options. Okay, both are great options. There is no lesser. Okay, while I was in the workforce, I thought working for others is lesser, or having your own business is good. But I found out that there is no lesser. It is all about you. It's all about you. All right. So if you look at others, you're wondering why they are so successful. Why am I not? Or why this person and that person, right? They are they and you are you, right? In the end, it boils down to you. Okay, so there is no lesser position. So if you are thinking of going into business, okay, or even into the workforce, these are 5 questions that can help you. First, what are your skills and talents? What are you born with? What have you learned? What have you acquired? Secondly, what can you help people with? What are you good at? What do people around you say that you're good at, that you can help them with? The third one is, what is your purpose of helping them? What is your intention? Does it come deep within your heart? Is it something that the market demands? Is it something that you feel you have a mission, a sense of purpose in the world? And fourth, can your offer be monetized? Can your offer be monetized? That means, is there a market demand for what you have to offer? Will people be willing to pay for it, for such service, for such product? And number 5 is, why should people buy from you? Yeah, because when you go out to the market, there are many others just like you. So ask yourself, why should people buy from you? Why should they get your product or service? When you have all these 5, then you are ready to take the next step forward. Okay, so please take a screenshot of this or note it down if you haven't. Okay, great. So are you ready? This is a question that we should ask ourselves, especially during such a time like this, where we come to crossroads, whether we don't know what to go for, right or left. The question is, are you ready? And if you're not, get yourself ready. Get yourself ready. And this Youth-led Solution Summit is a great way to explore options and a great way to hear perspectives from all over the world. Thank you. And that ends my presentation. Okay, guys, I'm going to pass the floor back to Sunita.
Thank you so much, Mike, and for giving us a very inspiring journey to be an entrepreneur. So thank you so much for that. And let's also welcome our other friends, Fabian from Sri Lanka, Jeffrey from Bangladesh, and Jennifer from India. Well, we are still waiting for one of our youths from Myanmar, Wai Lin Lin. If you are there, then please send a request to get into the stage so we can also hear your voice. Well, we are very happy to have our third speaker, and he is Felix Weidenkopf, works at the International Labour Organization, ILO, very well known. In Bangkok is employment specialist to provide technical advice on employment and labour market policies as part of the ILO's decent work technical support team for East and Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Prior to joining the ILO in 2012, Felix worked in the Division on Investment and Enterprise of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. He holds a Master's of Science in Development Studies from the London School of Economics and Political Science. Well, we are very happy to have you, Felix. So now I'd like to invite you to help us giving an overview on youth employment and the future of work in Asia and Pacific context. Felix.
Thanks a lot, Sunita, and it's really a pleasure for the International Labour Organization to join you all today from Bangkok, and it's been inspiring to hear already from Mike and Adelina, and I'd like to thank YMCA for the invitation to the Youth-led Solutions Summit. Just in my initial remarks, and I hope you can see the presentation if it could be put up, I'd like to share with you an overview of the youth employment situation and COVID-19 impact in Asia Pacific, which then allows us all to think more how we can shape a more human-centered future of work for youth. And I also hope to share some key resources on youth employment and entrepreneurship with you. If you could move to the next slide, please. Is it possible to go in presentation mode thank you. Maybe to start with the current situation, we know that even before the COVID-19 crisis, youth in Asia Pacific were already in a vulnerable labor market situation. So youth aged 15 to 24 were more likely to be unemployed than adults. And out of the more than 660 million youth in Asia and the Pacific, many were economically quite active. So that means they were either looking for work or working. But more than 8 out of 10 young workers who were working in Asia Pacific, they were in informal employments, and that means often with limited legal rights and social protection. And what is more, 160 million youth were not in employment, education, or training, so-called NEET. And we also know that inequalities and gender disparities persists, and we see that nearly 3/4 of those needs were young women. If you move to the next slide, please. Is it possible to increase the screen or go into full screen mode? If not, I just continue. But now over 2020, and as we all know, the COVID-19 crisis has really led to a massive disruption to the economy, and then subsequently also to the labor markets. And the ILO and an Asian Development Bank analysis in Asia Pacific show that it essentially negatively and disproportionately impacted the prospects for youth mainly through 3 channels. The first one is a disruption in education and training that we've seen. And the second one, a job disruption, and by that we mean that resulted in reduced working hours, in reduced earnings, and also job losses, along also with deteriorating quality of employment. And thirdly, also difficulties in now transitioning from school to work or moving between jobs during a recession. Next slide, please. So looking at the first of those challenges, then that's the one, the disruptions to education and training, they have really profound impacts on youth employability and employment. We've seen that disruptions of work-based learning are reflected in significant impacts on apprenticeships and internships, including challenges firms reported due to infrastructure issues and limited digital literacy. Could we move to the next slide, please? So, and with many trainings moving online, the unequal access to digital technologies, the digital divide that we are seeing can also widen further the gaps in education and training prospects. Moving now to the next slide, if that's possible from Sunita or Asha also to change the slides.
Ashu, is it possible? Or maybe Mike can take over.
I could just continue talking in the meantime, but on the job disruptions, the ones we've seen in the labor market in Asia and Pacific, they were felt first and foremost through the reduction, what we've seen in working hours. So following the containment measures that you might have experienced across your countries in different ways, workplace closures, restrictions on travel and transport of goods. And these working hour losses have been greater for youth than for adults in Asia Pacific countries where we have the data. And that's so because youth also are disproportionately affected and more likely than adults to experience outright job loss, almost like a first out principle compared to perhaps a temporary job suspension. So on the PowerPoint, could we move 2 slides forward? Okay, perfect, thank you. Now, what you see on the right side, and just to give the economic situation and looking back at what happened in 2020, when we look at the economic sectors that have been really negatively affected in terms of employment in 2020, you will see in the figure here on the right that employment in several sectors was particularly hard hit, including in the accommodation and food industry. And that's particularly relevant for tourism, but also construction, manufacturing, and wholesale and retail trade. And the ILO analysis also finds a severe impact on young women in Asia Pacific, since they are overrepresented in several high impact sectors, such as in accommodation and food services. If you move to the next slide, please. So in Asia Pacific over the last year, the crisis resulted in an employment decline for youth of 10.3%, as opposed to 2.4% for adults. And what's more, when you look at the latest data, it shows us that outside of the high income countries, jobless young people or those who are just about to enter the labor market, they did not generally then move into unemployment, but rather they dropped out of the labor force. So they're also not looking for work anymore, or they delayed their entry into it and try to stay in education. And that is a worrying trend. And the figure on the right also reflects that the proportion of the youth being economically active, so that means again, either working or looking for work, the so-called labor force participation rate, that has reduced across all sub-regions in Asia Pacific from 2019 to 2020. And that decline was again larger for youth than for adults. If you move to the next slide, please. The ILO analysis also shows that the school to work transition will be more difficult because the young people now entering the labor market, they will encounter a market with fewer vacancies and also compete for jobs with more experienced workers. And in addition, prior to the crisis, the pathways of a large share of young workers that was through a job in a sector that are now most impacted, such as in wholesale and retail trade and manufacturing. And some of those pathways are now disrupted. Next slide, please. But at the same time, youth entering the world of work now, they also encounter a rapidly changing world of work. So, and we've heard before, driven by, in the plenaries, driven by technological changes, by demographic changes, environmental and climate changes, but also globalization. And they've come to the fore also during the crisis, if you just think about increased digitalization. And that brings opportunities, but also challenges. And in 2019, governments, employers, and workers, they came together to agree on the ILO Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work to provide us more of a framework for a human-centered approach, which includes, among others, policies to invest in people's capabilities and skills and learning. So how do we do that? And if you move to the next slide, please. I think it's important that the COVID-19 recovery also offers new sectoral employment opportunities that emerge for youth. And the summit looks in particular at the creative economy, the green economy, and the care economy. So in Building Back Better, many governments and communities are making an effort now to invest in green jobs. And these are jobs that contribute to preserve or restore the environment, be they in more traditional sectors such as manufacturing and construction, or in new emerging green sectors such as renewable energy and energy efficiency. And we heard earlier in the panel discussion with ILO and WHO that the care economy is becoming increasingly important, especially in aging societies like in several countries in Asia Pacific. So the care economy includes unpaid care work, so that means caring for persons or doing housework without any explicit monetary compensation, but it also includes paid care work, such as in private households, as the case for domestic workers, but also in public or private hospitals, in clinics, in nursing homes, schools, other care establishments. So essentially the healthcare and education sector. Next slide, please. And across all of those sectors, we should also not forget that the role of technology that needs to be considered in those sectors. Let's take the case of digitalization. We know that COVID-19 is also likely to accelerate digitalization, first in order to uphold health and safety measures, but also just to keep economic activities running. And we know that technological advancements, including artificial intelligence and robotics, they transform labor market opportunities and skills requirements for youth. So this is because technology has a nuanced impact on jobs. They disrupt, transform, and also lead to reprofiling of occupations. So it doesn't mean that the job doesn't exist anymore, but it means that part of the job might change, and some tasks could be facilitated through technology, while you may need other skills to conduct that job. So there is a need for reskilling and also upskilling through lifelong learning and skills development to facilitate those transitions to really productive employment and decent work. And soft skills such as teamwork, adaptability, they can play quite an important role in being ready for those transitions and new employment opportunities. And next slide, please. So if you think about what can be done to tackle the youth employment crisis, and I'm just listing a few here, but it's clear that hard-hit groups such as youth, we need to put in place targeted measures for decent work opportunities and a job-rich recovery. So that requires, on the one hand, balancing the inclusion of youth in wider labor markets and economic recovery measures. You've seen all the fiscal stimulus packages that governments across the region have rolled out, but also combined with more youth-targeted and also gender-sensitive measures. So that interventions. And some of those measures that could be directed at youth also in the hardest hit sectors, but also in sectors that have growth potential. They could include youth-targeted wage subsidies or public employment programs. It could include supporting entrepreneurship, as we've heard from Mike, with be it access to capital, also combined with non-financial support services, and supporting the digital inclusion for equitable access to education, training, and employment. Next slide, please. And to give a concrete example of and beyond the labor market situation and the focus on the future of work, I'd also like to share with those of you who are interested in enterprise development and entrepreneurship some relevant resources. So you could visit the new ILO online peer learning hub for enterprises in Asia Pacific at learninghub.ilo.org. And that offers scalable, openly available, and impactful business development tools. So this includes activity-based learning programs such as community-based enterprise development or ready for business programs that has online and offline entrepreneurship modules that can be easily downloaded and be used by any organization in Asia Pacific. Next slide, please. So, and finally, also the impact of COVID-19 on youth employment will ultimately depend on the collective efforts that are made for a job-rich recovery. But no actor alone, not a government alone, will solve the youth employment challenge. Partnerships are key here, and youth have an important role to play. So we're very pleased that YMCA is a partner of Decent Jobs for Youth. It's the first ever comprehensive UN system-wide effort to promote youth employment, and also a core means of supporting the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So this global initiative provides access to expertise, networks, and resources worldwide, and also in the Asia Pacific region through a joint knowledge facility. So from digital jobs to green jobs for youth. So I'd also like to invite you to visit decentjobsforyouth.org to find some of the youth employment resources that might be of relevance to your country and your projects that you're taking forward at the moment. So thanks for your attention, and then I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Felix. I think you have given us a broader understanding of the future of the work of young people, especially in the Asia Pacific context. And I'm sure we would like to hear from you more, maybe in later time, but in the coming days, probably we will have some opportunity for that to have another platform like this. Well, we are still waiting for our youth from Myanmar, and once he joins, we will also hear from them about their experiences. But I saw there are 2 questions already in the Q&A section. So maybe we will respond those questions, and then we will go back to hear from our youth panel. So there are 2, one from Rona Kinji. I hope she is still there. So her question is, she says, please, can you mute your mic, Rose? Thank you. Well, Rona is asking, how can we determine the value of, how can we determine the value of skill relevant to the future of work marketplace? It's kind of jumping, so I'm not able to read this one. How can we determine the value of skill relevant to the future of work marketplace, and how can we increase the value of youth labor? So if any one of the panelists can take this question, please. Maybe Felix can start.
Thank you, Sunita, and the question from Rona. I think it's the point really about what we are seeing now, the trends and those future work trends, that they vary by country. You might see other trends dominating in Malaysia compared to the Philippines or India, right? Really, also if you talk about digital labor platforms or other really labor market trends that are determining how your skills and the available job opportunities match. So it's not necessarily the value of one certain skill, because it's not a fixed value that you acquire once. I think the point really here is about staying updated and keeping your skills updated over time. So the aspect of really of lifelong learning is quite important, that you see how does the current skill set, and that includes both technical, or let's say more hard skills, but also those soft skills, how do they match to the opportunities that you aspire to, that you want to achieve in work and life, and they will gradually evolve. And it's important that those skills that they evolve with you, right? In the past, probably some decades ago, some youth would have gone through a technical vocational education training or completed secondary education, and then went into the job and stayed in the job and continued learning on the job. But nowadays we see that continues, of course, to be important, the work-based learning aspect, but there'll be constantly also, you see companies across the region, they're trying to bring in new skills for their employees, because also the market itself changes so quickly, for also the market with which the companies themselves have to keep up. Thanks.
Thank you. We have one more important question in the Q&A, and then maybe if Adeline and Mike can take this one. It's related to YMCA as well. And did you read the question? Maybe I can read also. What are the opportunities in driving skills with YMCA in the era of sustainable development goals for young people in order to create job and employment for youth? And this question is from Andrew. I think Andrew is from Nigeria. If Mike and Adeline can take this question.
Sure. Adeline would like to go first. Adeline? Okay, maybe she's not around. So maybe I can answer. Okay, so basically, I guess I can't really speak for all the YMCAs, but for my YMCA, we are focusing a lot on youth empowerment. And that is one way that we're going about it. So we are very much into training young people, especially myself right now as a trainer. So I begin to understand how important training is, equipping, like what Felix has mentioned, right? Reskilling and upgrading yourself in terms of the job market right now. So right now in the job market, there's a lot of need for digitality, right? So everyone is going digital, and how can we work with others digitally? A world without body language, like physical body language, a world without so much of interpersonal communication. The closeness is not there anymore, So how do we go about this? So training is one way on how we go about it. And we also have a campsite that we're developing. So we're training others to see how we can grow our campsite and what can we do there in terms of agriculture, in terms of harvesting our goods, and in terms of getting our local community involved. Okay, maybe Adeline, you can share a little bit on your part.
You
unmute.
muted.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I believe it's education and proper or relevant trainings for our young individuals. That is why we have this enhancement and livelihood skills training. It is an opportunity for our young minds to be part of to be engaged in livelihood skills. So this is our way to promote development, our sustainable development goals and entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Thanks, Adeline and Mike. And maybe we can have little time to hear from our youth from other countries. Okay, Jennifer is also here. Maybe if you can share a little bit about your experiences in your context from the perspective of the care, green, and the creative economy, what we are talking about. So maybe now, can we start with Fabian from Sri Lanka?
So basically, from the context of Sri Lanka, I think we have a very vibrant program that would be very relevant, I think, to this particular discussion that we're having today. Ideally, about 5 or 6 years ago, as you all know, Sri Lanka was in a 30-year-long civil war that ended in 2009. And in the aftermath of that war, we actually, YMCA Sri Lanka opened a sustainable farm in Sri Lanka in what was a post-war region. So we had a large land that we were able to requisition back from government control. And when we first started, I mean, it was a very ambitious program, because in Sri Lanka, the whole concept of like sustainable farming or integrated agriculture is just non-existent, and a lot of our farmlands are actually very reliant on pesticides. Like organic food has no real market in the country. So the whole concept that we brought in was very, very new. And in hindsight, though, I mean, it was very difficult at the onset, and it took a lot of hard work. I particularly remember our National General Secretary, Mr. Brownson, really adapted this. It was his baby. And I know how much he actually worked hard to pull it off the ground. And today, I think we provide employment for almost about 20 people. And this is long-term employment in a region that doesn't know the concept of like permanent employment is nearly non-existent. So unless you're basically a college graduate, or unless you've been to university, you don't really have access to permanent employment. And this would obviously mean, as a result, that you don't have access to loan facilities, you have no access to banking. I mean, at the start of our entire program, we realized that half of our people haven't really moved around with banks. So they were used to getting paid to their hands because they were daily wage earners. So this was a very eye-opening scenario. And I think this is the sort of work that the YMCA can really indulge in, that the YMCA can really do. And it encompasses the true power of our organization, the power to really bring a sort of, to take away transiency and bring a sort of permanence into the values of society, and that while transferring the values of our organization. So I think that is the Sri Lankan perspective, that is our perspective. But that being said, it isn't easy. And I understand that the whole concept of green jobs is very alien, especially in Sri Lanka. I mean, we don't really have any issues in terms of like clean oxygen and things like that. So the concept of like climate, the climate has been something important, as something that we ought to protect, easily non-existent unless you take the urban youth. And again, the urban youth don't really go into agriculture because of this historic stigma that associates agriculture with the lower classes. So I think there is a lot of things that need to be done. And do I ask my question now, Sunita, or do I keep it for later?
Maybe we have very little time, Fabian. Maybe we can have that question in another discussion as well. But can we just hear from, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences in YMCA, actually, within YMCA, how in the community we're working. Well, how about very quickly we can hear from Jennifer, maybe 1 minute or so.
Thank you, Sunita. So am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so myself, Jennifer from India. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for giving this. It is nice to see you all during this pandemic time. Though we are not able to meet by person, we are able to do it through virtual. So Felix had spoken about the care work. So in India, people, women and men, gender-wise, everyone are being treated equally. And if you take example of YMCA in India, we are given a lot of opportunities. Being a woman, we are given an opportunity leadership to, we are given a lot of responsibility. A question in which I hope I can get a clarification. So women do 80% of the unpaid care work in the region. What are some of the possible for the care workers under the care economy to value the unpaid jobs, so the economic status of women will be better in the region? If any of you could give a solution for that, it would be really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And let's see if we still have time. But since Jeffrey is already on the stage, so how about we can also hear for kind of 1 minute from Jeffrey, and then
hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm Jeffrey Ratul Shangma, and I work for the National Council of YMCAs of Bangladesh as a program secretary. So nice to meet everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So currently Bangladesh is facing a problem like our population is very huge and the food demand is very high. So the green economy is non-existent, like Fabian said. In our country too, it's very difficult. So I have a question for the panel. In what areas of work, for example, tourism, do you think the current COVID-19 pandemic also provides a chance to back a better post-pandemic towards a more green economy? Please, if anyone can from the panel can answer this.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Well, we couldn't have our youth from Myanmar, so this also tells us like how difficult it is for us to have access to stable internet connection. So she is also struggling to get into the stage, but not able to. So this is also the realities. Well, we have very little time, Asha. So I think it's we have only 5 minutes. So how about very quickly, if we can just hear from Adeline about the care economy, what Jennifer was asking, because today's plenary also they were talking about care economy. So maybe very quickly if you can respond that. Adeline. Adeline, can you please unmute your mic?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's about care economic.
Again, you are muted, Adeline. I know this is the problem we are experiencing since yesterday. Is it possible to unmute Adeline?
Yeah, Adeline, you're still muted. Okay.
Okay. So economic, it is about driving during the pandemic is about driving the lifestyle of people to promote alternative livelihood. So you an enterprise or an individual should be putting knowledge on how people should manage and create their life during this pandemic. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Again, you are muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted again.
I think she's not able to unmute probably.
Yeah, maybe we can go for the next question first.
Yes, but let me just read what we have in the chat box. Number one, the General Secretary of APOY, he also has responded to the question, I think, for Jennifer. So he also says, like, first of all, we should shift our understanding fundamentally that women's care work, especially at home, must be respected and monetized. The value shift is very important as a first step. So one way is that the government should provide pension scheme for the unpaid work done by homemakers lifelong. So the government can use tax collected money to compensate the care worker. So this is one of the very good suggestions. So thank you so much for the input. So I think we are almost done, but we have 2 more questions. What we got one from Jeffrey, and I think Fabian was also asking about something about green economy. If we still have time, then we can go about it. But then we will also have other breakout sessions where we can bring these questions as well for discussion. So that is another possibility. But maybe can I just ask the last one to Felix? We lost you, but welcome back, Felix. Well, this is a wonderful opportunity to work together, YMCA and the International Labour Organization. And we are very happy to have you, especially when we are talking about in the context of Asia Pacific. So maybe I take this opportunity to ask you, like, what are the possible collaboration or partnership we can do within YMCA and ILO, if you can briefly help us to understand.
Thanks a lot, Sunita. And just to echo what I said at the beginning, but it's been a pleasure to be with you and also to learn from all of you the work that YMCA is pushing forward across the country. So it's been very inspiring to hear about the work on education, on entrepreneurship, on livelihoods. And I think when hearing about your work and knowing it, of course, also beyond the session, I think there are many synergies to the work that the ILO does. And I think the work of YMCA aligns very well with the work and mandate also of the Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth to support youth along their transitions in Asia and the Pacific. And just to say, there are many synergies with the work of the ILO. The ILO has country offices in most countries in Asia Pacific, and youth employment is an important area of work for many of them, ranging from skills development projects to employment projects, sectoral projects in agriculture, in construction, in other industries, but also to seeing how this match works on employment services and also how technology can play a role there. So I hope that there could be some linkages also how our respective programs could link up at country level. But beyond that, of course, we're happy to also engage with you at regional level to see how we can take forward this exchange with you and colleagues to discuss further on some of those interesting aspects that we couldn't cover just in this short time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I agree, like we had hardly 1 hour, but I think we really did well, covered so many issues and brought many voices together in this platform. So there are still some chat going on, and then some suggestions are there. So we will bring this to another platform as well. But let me just take this opportunity once again to thank all our speakers, the youth panel, for their input and insight and discussion on this important topic. And thanks to all who attended and actively participated, actually. So this is the beginning of the discourse, what I said, among young people together in the regional context. And we will continue this journey in the coming days in different levels, together with the global World YMCA. So to conclude, as we discuss the green care and creative economy, let me end this session with a quote from Vandana Shiva, the famous environmental activist from India. So she said, in nature's economy, the currency is not money, it's life. So once again, I'll read, in nature's economy, the currency is not money, it's life. So with this meaningful quote, let us be encouraged, motivated, and inspired to create a life-centered economy, the green, care, and the creative economy. So once again, thank you so much for all your valuable input and insights, what we have received today. Thank you so much. And we will meet in another breakout session. But before we end or before we close, let me hand over to our organizer, Asha Leo.
Hi everyone. It's me, Asher again. Wow, isn't it? There's a wonderful session. So please give them a round of applause to show our appreciation for their times and effort. With all the point that was shared, I hope you all have a better understanding about your career path. It is important to know this because as young people, we need more awareness about the job market today, and also not simply just jump on trend, but also consider what you are good at. So this segment is now over, but don't go just yet. Just check out the reception over here for the upcoming event that's taking place soon. You can also click on the networking where you can get connected to others who are present here too. And for more content on demand, you can check out our resources library, which is at here. So at last, I would like to highlight that there's a plenary session with Pierre, the CEO and co-founder of Open Classroom at 11 p.m. Hong Kong time, where he would sharing his personal journey and an expert lead discussion on the future of green job. With that, I end this session. A big thanks to our panelists, Adeline, Michael, and Felix, and not forgetting Sunita from APAY. Thank you so much for contributing to our virtual regional roundtable and the wonderful sharing. Thank you and goodbye.
A group photo, please, Asha.
Okay, I mean, I just talked to all our audience here. So we take group photo now. Okay, everyone smile. Okay, I got it. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.